Gathered here with my family, my neighbors and my friends, standing firm together against oppression, holding hands. It doesn't matter where you're from, or if you're young or woman or man, we're here for the same reason. We want to take back our land. Oh God, thank you for giving us the strength to hold on. And now we're here together, calling you for freedom, freedom. We know you can hear our call. Oh, we're calling for freedom, fighting for freedom.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening and welcome to the special focus. I am Zahid Jadwat and we are together until 8 p.m. tonight right here on Salam Media, of course via our live stream on salammedia.com/listen-live, on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page, as well as live on our Twitter handle. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. And of course, we are all anticipating the presidential address at 8 p.m. this evening. So that will come straight after the show this evening. It's been a rough start for South Africans this week, especially if you've been living in the Brackenfell region. So on Monday, a group of parents from the Brackenfell High School attacked EFF members who were protesting against alleged racism at the school. Now, the incident was sparked by a matric ball that was hosted privately after the school had cancelled the annual event due to COVID-19. And just looking at some of the updates on the story, an individual identified as 38-year-old Jaco Pretorius from Protea Heights appeared at the Kales Rover Magistrates Court this morning for just discharging a firearm, which was believed to be an air gun, in a public place during the clashes that took place outside the school on Monday. His case has been postponed to January the 25th for further investigation, and he is out on a warning. And this seems to be a really major issue, a big discussion that has been hogging the headlines ever since it took place on Monday, because it has a lot to it. It's much more deeper than meets the eye. Of course, the violence could not have come at at a worse time, rather, considering that the matriculants are now writing the NSC exams. So it is really concerning that these protests have erupted. So to unpack this, we are going to be joined now by Wandile Kasibia of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters. He joins us now on the line. And after him, we will be joined by Jimmy Ramokgopa, who is a sociopolitical commentator at Politricks South Africa. He'll be joining us at about 7:15. But in the meantime, let me welcome Wandile Kasibia. Good evening and welcome to the show, Wandile.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on your show.
All right, so before we proceed with the discussion for this evening, let's first clarify, were those who clashed with parents and the community outside the Brackenfell High School, were they EFF members or were they EFF supporters?
Those were our members. In fact, our members were demonstrating peacefully there. Peaceful demonstrations are allowed within the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And those white thugs, those racists attacked us. We did not provoke them. They attacked us. And as a party, we have been provoked by those racists. We went there to establish the facts with the principal of the school and also the school governing body. And in fact, this interaction with the school started on Friday. We went there on Friday to start that conversation because a complaint was conveyed to us by the parents and the learners of the school because of the fact that they were excluded from that white only event. And then as the EFF, we went there to establish the facts and to investigate the matter because we could not sit down and fold our arms when a complaint has been communicated to us. And then upon arrival there, our buggy, our vehicle was then broken into by those white racists. We had to then discontinue the conversation so that we can attend to the bulky that had just been broken into. And then on Monday, we went back again so that we can continue with, establishing the facts and demonstrate there peacefully. And then we attacked on our way to the school.
So why was the EFF protesting outside the school? Could you talk us through some of the grievances you had? Of course, you did mention the event which took place recently, and it appeared to have been one that was restricted and exclusive only for whites. Of course, that was a private function as it emerged later on. So talk us through some of the grievances which you had prior to this.
No, our concern is that these are very serious, allegations that have been, leveled against, the school itself and also against the teachers who actually, participated in that, racist function. And for us, our concern was that, when something like this has been conveyed to us, the school or whoever is in charge must then, respond to this, quite, promptly. And then our not grievance, but our demand was that, the people who were involved in that should actually be suspended pending the investigation, because this is very serious. You can have a school that falls under the Department of Education in the province that is implicated, or rather that is involved in racist activity, and that was attended by the teachers of that school. We are here this excuse that the school was not involved, but the SGB of the school itself, later on they take us to court, and court tells them that you cannot not allow people to exercise their constitutional right to picket, because it is the right of every citizen of this country to actually picket. It's within the rules, it's within the constitutional right of this country. The SGB itself, what prompted the SGB to go to court? They go to court because they know that they were implicated in that function. They were implicated in that function the same as the school itself. Now they are distancing themselves from the function, but it took place on the premises of the school. And that school is a government property, by the way.
Now, I'm just curious to know how is it that you connect to the school with the event that actually took place? Of course, it was, as it later emerged, this was a private function. So how do you think the school is actually implicated in all of this?
The teachers of the school were there. And the invitation that was sent out to those white learners. What about black learners? What about other learners from colored communities?
But this was a private event, and the invitation, as I understand, was not sent out by the school itself. So you have been calling for certain officials at the school to be suspended pending an investigation, and that's how I understand it. But you also requested to speak with the principal. Were you eventually able to speak with the principal?
We were able to speak with the principal. And the principal at first denied that there was such, and then later on, the principal admitted that, yes, of course, this actually took place, but then he distanced himself from the function, same as the SGB, the school governing body. They distanced themselves, but later on, they take us to court. So what prompted them to take us to court? To stop the EFF from actually picketing peacefully outside the school. So what prompted them?
Yeah, and we had actually invited the Minister for Education in the Western Cape, Ms. Debbie Schaefer, but unfortunately she is unable to join us this evening due to the nationwide by-elections which are taking place. Now, in the aftermath of this, of Monday's events, what unfolded outside the school on Monday, the Western Cape Premier Alan Winde condemned the violence that had ensued and described it as being deeply disturbing. President Cyril Ramaphosa also condemned the violence and called for an investigation in the elements of racism, the alleged elements of racism. So what is your response as the EFF to the remarks made by both leaders in their respective positions?
Our position is clear. We reject Alan Winde's position because he basically makes a statement that EFF should not go there, should not go to Brackenfell. What kind of a statement that is that in 2020? Is Brackenfell a white-only area where black people cannot actually go there and picket? What kind of a statement is that? We reject his statement. We even reject the statement of Debbie, Shalfa. We reject the statement because of the fact that those racist thugs, who attacked us there. There's a suspicion that those people are actually members of the Democratic Alliance. And that's the reason why they are protecting those thugs, they are protecting those racists, because DA itself is a racist organization. It cannot be taken seriously. It cannot be taken seriously because they protect those white racists. They are unable to confront those white racists and reprimand them because they themselves are racist. They are masquerading as people of progress when in actual fact, at the core, they are racists who actually support acts of racism. What kind of a leader in 2020 will tell people not to go to a certain area? Is Brackenfell, its own republic within the Republic of South Africa? Gone are the days when black people were barred from going into certain spaces. We as the EFF, we are not going to be deterred. We are not going to be turned around. We are not going to be deterred by anyone. Brackenfell is part and parcel of this country, and we're not going to be told by anyone that we should not go to Brackenfell and picket there peacefully.
And in a statement which was released by the Economic Freedom Fighters, your party, shortly after the incident on Monday, the statement, as I quoted, they have pushed us and they must be prepared to be pushed back harder. I think this was in response to the community that had clashed with your members outside the Brackenfell High School. Is it safe to say that this is a warning that you will be continuing with the protest, and could residents anticipate further violence?
No, we have not actually, said that there will be violence. We said that we will actually exercise our right to picket there. We will exercise our constitutional right to speak against racism whenever it shows its ugly face. That's what we said. The thing of violence, it comes from you and whoever is perpetrating or pushing that agenda. As the EFF, we are not going to allow anyone to tell us that we cannot go and picket there outside of that school. No one is going to tell us that we cannot actually, confront and speak against racism in this country. This is not, apartheid. We gone are those days when we are told that we should not go into certain areas. This country came out of a very, troubling situation where black people were asked, or in fact, were forced to carry dome passes in order to go into certain areas. Brackenfell is not a white-only area. We are not going to be told by anyone that we should not go and picket in Brackenfell. We are listening to these racists. We are listening to Ellen Winde. We are listening to Debbie. All of these people are racist. They are telling us that we should not go there. On whose mandate? Where are they getting that mandate from? Where are they basing their logic from? There's no such a law in this country that bars South Africans from picketing peacefully outside of a school. And we're not going to be stopped by anyone from going to Brackenfell.
All right, thank you so much for your time. That is where we are going to have to leave it for this evening. We do hope that we can, in future, get a hold of the Western Cape Education Department, as to get their view on this and their response to this. But thank you so much for your time, Mr. Wandile Kasibe, EFF Western Cape Media and Communications Liaison Officer.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
All right, and we are going to continue with this discussion, so do stay tuned to Salam Media. This is the special focus. And now to further this discussion, we are joined by Mr. Jimmy Ramokgopa, who is a sociopolitical commentator at Politricks South Africa. Good evening, Jimmy, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
All right, so it has been a really busy period this week. It's a rough start for the residents of Brackenfell, especially for the students of Brackenfell High School, the matriculants as well, writing their exams, beginning their final exams, and now these are the incidents that have unfolded. So what is your thoughts on the clash between Brackenfell community and EFF members on Monday?
I think that the community, first of all, we have to condemn the violence. I think as a society, we shouldn't be a society that has exceptions to certain acts of violence. Just because it's from a particular group, we then paint it in a particular manner. I think we have to condemn violence wherever it comes from. That's the first thing that I want to say. Secondly, we have to be aware also and conscious as voters and as citizens that we are dealing with politicians, and politicians will do what politicians do, which is to campaign. And it seems as though the EFF have adopted a position of attacking racism as their campaigning strategy. Whether the extent to which they do it is valid or not, it might be a question for another day. However, what we are seeing is that, again, the same way that the people of Senegal and the people of the, how can I say, the Winnie Mandela security, the same way they fell for the trap of the EFF, of giving EFF an opportunity for them to campaign. We are seeing that happening right now in the said community right now. It wasn't wise for the community to behave in the way they did, because they are right now playing to sort of like the trap of the EFF and allowing the EFF to do what politicians do, which is to campaign.
Yeah, and interestingly, you did bring up the Senegal protests. Those were a really concerning events that took place in Senegal in the Free State a few weeks back. So that would make me wonder now, where does this particular protest actually fit within the broader issue of violent protests in South Africa? And, racism as well, the issue of racism, the tensions, where does this fit?
Well, it plays well with the idea of racism, because what the EFF has done is that they have created a scapegoat, which is white people in this case, and they are going to milk the scapegoat as much as possible in order to get people agitated and in order to appear as a political party that's actually doing something about a problem. We cannot deny that racism is a problem in South Africa. It is a problem. It is a big issue. However, the EFF have found a strategy and have found a working strategy that can get as many people agitated as possible, and to actually activate the youth vote and to actually show South Africans the perception that they're actually doing something about racism through theatrics and through all this media publicity. Like, I will say this, like, for example, looking at the Senegal issue. If you look at how the Senegal issue was managed, and you look at how it's actually well played out, if you consider, if you step back and put the politics aside, just step back and watch how the EFF operates. Watch how they went to Senegal. Watch how they campaigned at Senegal. Watch how Julius Malema had his moment on the track and was able to campaign for the EFF and get the message across and be able to hopefully get more people to support him. I assume that the same thing will happen right now. The EFF will go to the school or around the vicinity of the school. They will go with their campaigning equipment and gear and truck and do the same thing over and over again in order to get as much support as they can. Because at the end of the day, they are politicians and they are doing this for votes. And this is something that we need to step back a bit and try to isolate the issues a bit and try to look at them from a bird's eye view to see what's actually happening, behind the smokes and
Yeah, and just while we are on it at this point in this discussion, you mentioned this campaign strategy. It seems to be the EFF's campaign strategy, whereby they attack racism, wherever it may be across the country. We've so far this year, whether it's been the clicks issue, it's been the Senegal issue, and now the Brackenfell issue. So it seems to be their campaign strategy, and of course, all of this coming in the build-up to the 2021 local government elections. Do you think the strategy is working for them?
I think it may work for them. It may actually work for them. They have two strategies. The one is to sort of like attack racism. The second strategy is to attack corporate. They have made it clear that this year they're going to look at corporates. They've established the EFF labor desk. So it will work actually, because as we are right now we are talking about the EFF, and what will happen is that throughout the whole week we will speak about the EFF. We are not speaking about the other political parties. The ANC is busy going around campaigning. A few people are actually talking about the ANC and their campaigns that they're doing. The DA is probably doing their own thing. Very few people are talking about what the DA is doing. EFF is going to be the main topic for the week and probably for the whole year until we get to the next elections. And it's actually working because racism is actually a sensitive issue. And if you know how to play the race card well enough, like the EFF, it might work for you, maybe in the short term, but it will definitely bring in a few more votes for them.
Right. And, just to wrap up on this, since we do have limited time, of course, later on we are going to be joined by Professor Adam Habib to dig deeper into this discussion, but, on a broader level, to speak about violent protests. Of course, that discussion coming up at about 7:30. But just for you to wrap up now in this, or your segment of this discussion, Western Cape Premier Alan Wende has condemned the violence that ensued and described it as being deeply disturbing. President Cyril Ramaphosa also condemned the violence and called for an investigation into alleged elements of racism. Your response to the remarks made by both leaders in their respective positions? Of course, I did pose the same question to Wandile earlier on from the EFF, and he actually rejected the statement by Premier Alan Wende.
Well, I endorse the statement by the Premier. I think the Premier's statement was balanced because we must not be disingenuous. We know how EFF protests usually turn out. They have, even though they come as a party that says that they are only doing this following their constitutional rights, if you listen to the things that EFF members during the whole chaos were saying, they were saying things like white people are foreigners and white people do not belong in Africa. Obviously, that agitates people. Obviously, that creates a lot more anger. Obviously, that creates a lot more tension in the country. So what they're doing is that they are gaslighting minority groups. And then when minority groups blow up in anger, then they switch and play the victim. So we mustn't be disingenuous about what the EFF is doing. But at the same time, we must condemn the violent acts from the community members, because you cannot justify violence, especially outside of a school.
All right, thank you so much for that analysis on the most heated issue this week. Of course, the protests outside Brackenfell High School, and I'm sure you, as one, Jimmy Ramokgopa, I'm sure you will be keeping an eye on what the president has to say tonight. Of course, the much anticipated presidential address coming up at 8 p.m. But that's where we're going to have to leave this segment of the discussion for this evening. Of course, Professor Adam Habib joins us after after 7:30 this evening. But before that, let's take a quick ad break, and when we get back, we will get into that discussion. Please do stay tuned.